The alarm on Taewan's suit beeped softly as he walked through the dark corridor. He was alone in Section D of the mining station, checking pipes and making sure everything worked properly. This was his job every Tuesday night. The station was called Cheonsa 7, and it floated in the asteroid belt far from Earth. Taewan had worked here for 6 years, fixing things and keeping the mining equipment running. His flashlight cut through the darkness. Most of the lights in this section had been turned off to save power. The company didn't like spending money on areas that nobody used anymore. Taewan didn't mind the quiet. It was better than listening to his co-workers complain about the food or the long shifts. Something caught his eye. There was a new hole in the wall. That wasn't there last week. Taewan walked closer and saw twisted metal and scorch marks. Something had crashed through the outer hull and into this abandoned section. His heart started beating faster. This could be dangerous. If there was a breach, the whole section could lose air. He pressed his radio. "Control, this is Taewan. I found damage in Section D. Looks like an impact. Should I check it out?" The radio crackled. "Control here. How big is the damage?" "Maybe 3 meters wide." Something came through from outside. There was a pause. "Okay, take a look, but be careful. Report back in 10 minutes. Taewan climbed through the hole. His suit lights showed a small room on the other side. It wasn't part of the station. He was inside something else. A ship, or part of a ship. The walls were smooth and dark, made of material he didn't recognize. Strange symbols glowed faintly on panels near the floor. In the center of the room was a container. It looked like a glass coffin, but the glass was moving, swirling with purple and blue energy. Inside the container was a woman. At least she looked like a woman. Her skin was pale blue and her hair was white and very long. She wore torn gray clothes. Her eyes were closed. Taewan stepped closer. Was she dead? Then he saw her chest move. She was breathing. But something was wrong. The energy around her was pulling at her skin, making dark marks appear on her arms and face. The container was hurting her. He looked at the panels on the floor. The symbols meant nothing to him, but red lights were flashing. That usually meant danger in any language. Above the container, words appeared in the air. They shifted and changed, cycling through different languages. Most of them Taewan couldn't read. Then English appeared. Prisoner containment active. Life signs critical. Extraction protocol forbidden. Taewan's mouth went dry. This was a prison, and the woman inside was dying. He pressed his radio again. "Control, I found something." "It's the escape pod." "There's someone inside?" "Someone?" "What do you mean, someone?" "A person. An alien, I think. She's alive but hurt." The radio went silent for a moment. Then a different voice spoke. It was Dong-hyun, the station commander. "Taewan, step away from the pod immediately. We're sending security to your location. Do not touch anything. But she's dying. The machine is killing her. That's not your problem. Wait for security." "That's an order." Taewan looked at the woman. Her breathing was getting slower. The dark marks were spreading across her face. Security would take at least 15 minutes to get here. She didn't have 15 minutes. He turned off his radio. Taewan wasn't a doctor, but he knew about machines. This container was running on power from somewhere. He found cables running from the base into the floor of the pod. He pulled out his cutting tool and went to work. The first cable sparked when he cut it. The energy field flickered but didn't stop. He cut 2 more cables. The field was getting weaker. The woman's eyes opened. They were golden and they stared at him with fear. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. She raised one hand and pressed it against the inside of the container. Her fingers were long and thin. "I'm trying to help," Taewan said, even though he knew she probably couldn't understand him. "Just hold on." He cut the last cable. The energy field collapsed. The container opened with a hiss of air. The woman fell forward and Taewan caught her. She was light, lighter than a human woman her size should be. She was also cold, shaking badly. She looked up at him and said something in a language that sounded like music. Her voice was weak. When Taewan didn't respond, fear filled her golden eyes. She tried to pull away from him. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't understand his words, but maybe she understood his tone. She stopped fighting. Her eyes closed again and her body went limp. Taewan checked her pulse. It was there, but very weak. He heard voices on his radio. Security was coming. If they found her, they would lock her up. Or worse, they might hand her over to whoever had put her in that prison. Taewon made a decision. He picked up the woman and carried her out of the pod. He took a different route, one that avoided the main corridors. His quarters were on the other side of the station. It took him 20 minutes of careful walking to get there without being seen. He laid her on his bed and covered her with blankets. She was still unconscious. He found his medical kit and started treating the marks on her skin. They looked like burns. He used gel bandages and pain medicine. He didn't know if human medicine would work on an alien, but he had to try something. His radio was full of angry messages. Dong-hyun was demanding to know where he was. Security had found the empty pod. They were searching the station. Taewon looked at the woman on his bed. She was breathing easier now. Her skin didn't look as pale. He had just destroyed his career and maybe his life. If they caught him, he would go to prison. The company didn't like people who broke rules, and helping an escaped prisoner was probably the biggest rule you could break. But when he had seen her dying in that container, he couldn't walk away. That wasn't who he was. Someone knocked on his door. Taewon's blood turned to ice. The woman's eyes opened again. She looked at him, then at the door. She understood the danger. She tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Engineering security. Open the door, Taewon. He looked at the woman one more time. Her golden eyes met his. In that moment, something passed between them. Understanding, gratitude, trust. Taewon opened the door. 3 days had passed since they took Yura away. Taewon learned her name during the 2 hours he had hidden her in his quarters. She had pointed to herself and said, Yura, over and over until he understood. He told her his name, and she tried to say it with her musical voice. Then security had knocked on his door and everything had fallen apart, but not completely. While the guards searched his room, Yura had pressed her hand against his forehead. Her palm was warm. He felt a strange tingling sensation, like electricity running through his skull. Then she had whispered something in her language and let the guards take her. They had dragged her away while Taewon was held down by 3 men. He never saw her again after that. Now Taewon stood in the waste processing area wearing a yellow suit that marked him as a hazard worker. The smell was terrible even through his helmet. His job was to move radioactive waste from the mining operations into storage containers. It was the worst job on the station. People who worked here usually got sick within a few months. The company didn't care. There were always more workers. Taewon lifted another barrel and felt pain shoot through his back. His muscles ached all the time now. The radiation was starting to affect his body. He could feel it. His hands shook when he tried to eat. His stomach hurt constantly. At night he couldn't sleep because his bones felt like they were burning. You look terrible, a voice said behind him. Taewon turned and saw Nari, the station medic. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray hair. She had been working on Cheonsa 7 longer than anyone else. I'm fine, Taewon said. You're dying, Nari said flatly. I can see it from here. Come to the medical bay after your shift. I'll check your levels. Why? So you can tell me what I already know? Nari stepped closer. So I can give you medicine that might buy you a few more weeks. Don't be stupid, Taewon. What you did was brave. Don't waste it by dying in this garbage room. She walked away before he could respond. Taewon went back to moving barrels. Each one felt heavier than the last. In the cafeteria that evening, Taewon sat alone. The other workers avoided him. They were afraid that talking to him would get them in trouble too. His former friends Ji-ho and Hyunwoo sat at a table across the room. They looked at him sometimes but never came over. Taewon didn't blame them. They had families back on Earth. They couldn't risk their jobs. The news screen on the wall was showing reports from Earth. Then it switched to a special announcement. Dong-hyun's face appeared. He looked angry. Attention all station personnel, Dong-hyun said. 3 days ago, one of our workers helped a dangerous criminal escape. This individual was wanted by multiple galactic organizations. By helping her, our station has become a target. The Covenant Syndicate has placed a bounty on anyone involved in her escape. Corporate headquarters is currently negotiating with the Covenant to resolve this situation. Taewon's appetite disappeared. The Covenant. He had heard of them. They were criminals who controlled whole sectors of space. They dealt in slaves, weapons, and worse things. If they wanted him, he was as good as dead. Dong-hyun continued. The worker responsible has been identified and punished. However, the Covenant is not satisfied. They demand that this individual be turned over to them for judgment. Corporate is considering this option. The screen went dark. Everyone in the cafeteria turned to look at Taiwan. He stood up and walked out. His hands were shaking, but not from radiation this time. That night, Taiwan went to see Nari in the medical bay. She ran tests on him for an hour. When she was done, her face was serious. "Your cell damage is advanced," she said. "The radiation is breaking down your DNA. Without proper treatment, you have maybe 3 weeks, maybe less." "Can you treat it?" Taiwan asked. "Not here. You need a real hospital with advanced equipment. You need to go back to Earth. The company won't pay for that. They'll just let me die." Nari looked away. "I know. I'm sorry, Taiwan. I'll give you medicine to slow it down, but that's all I can do." Taiwan nodded. He had expected this answer. "Can I ask you something? Do you think I did the wrong thing helping her?" Nari was quiet for a moment. "She was the alien, right? The one in the pod?" "Yes. Her name was Yira. She was dying. The machine was killing her." "Then you did the right thing," Nari said firmly. "I don't care what Dong-hyun says. I don't care what the company says. You saved a life. That's what matters. Even if it cost me mine, especially then, that's what makes it matter." Taewon left the medical bay with a bottle of pills and a small bit of hope. Maybe he had done the right thing after all. The next day, Dong-hyun called him to the command office. Taewon stood in front of the commander's desk while 2 security guards watched him from the sides. Dong-hyun looked at him with disgust. "The Covenant has sent a representative," Dong-hyun said. "They arrive tomorrow. Corporate has decided to hand you over." Taewon felt cold. "What will they do to me?" "I don't know, and I don't care. You brought this on yourself. You should have left that alien in the pod. She would have died." "So what?" Dong-hyun slammed his hand on the desk. "She wasn't your problem. Now this entire station is at risk because you decided to play hero. Do you know what the Covenant does to people who interfere with their business? They make examples of them. They'll probably broadcast your execution across 100 worlds." Taewon said nothing. What could he say? Dong-hyun was right about one thing. Taewon had known the risks. He had chosen to help Yira anyway. "You have until tomorrow evening," Dong-hyun said. "Stay in your quarters. Don't make this worse." The guards escorted Taewon back to the barracks. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. His body hurt everywhere now. The medicine Nari gave him wasn't working very well. He could feel himself getting weaker by the hour. He thought about Yira. He wondered if she had survived. The guards had taken her away in restraints, but at least she was out of that horrible container. Maybe she had escaped again. Maybe she was free somewhere in the galaxy. That thought made him feel a little better. That night, Taewon couldn't sleep. He got up and walked to the observation deck. It was empty at this hour. He stood by the window and looked out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, too far away to see. His mother and sister were down there, living their lives. They didn't even know he was dying. The company hadn't told them anything. He wondered what they would think when they heard the news. Would they understand why he had done it? Or would they think he was stupid for throwing his life away for a stranger? Through the window, Taewon saw something moving. At first, he thought it was an asteroid. Then he realized it was too big, too smooth. It was a ship. A huge ship, bigger than anything he had ever seen. Its hull was dark but covered with glowing blue patterns that looked like veins. It was beautiful. The ship moved between the station and the stars. Then Taewon saw smaller ships approaching from the opposite direction. 3 of them, with red markings and ugly angular designs. Covenant ships. The beautiful ship didn't move. It just waited there, blocking the path to the station. Taewon's heart started pounding. Something was about to happen. Something big. He pressed his hand against the window and watched the stars, waiting for whatever came next. The alarm started screaming throughout Cheonsa 7. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Taewon ran from the observation deck toward the main area. Other workers were stumbling out of their quarters, confused and frightened. Nobody knew what was happening. "Everyone to emergency stations," Dong-hyun's voice shouted over the speakers. "We have unidentified vessels approaching." "This is not a drill!" Taewon made it to the common area where a large screen showed the space around the station. The beautiful ship with blue patterns was still there, but now the 3 Covenant ships were trying to move around it. Every time they changed direction, the beautiful ship moved to block them. It was protecting the station. "What's going on?" Jiho appeared next to Taewon. For the first time in days, his old friend was talking to him. "Who's out there?" "I don't know," Taewon said, though his heart was telling him something different. He had a feeling he knew exactly who it was. The screen flickered. Static filled it for a moment. Then a face appeared. Yura's face. Taewon stopped breathing. She looked completely different from the dying woman he had pulled from the container. Her white hair was arranged in an elaborate style with silver ornaments. Her blue skin glowed with health. She wore dark robes covered in the same glowing patterns as the ship. Her golden eyes looked directly at the camera with confidence and power. "People of Cheonsa 7, she said in perfect English. Her voice was still musical, but now it was strong and clear. "I am Yura Velthanu, High Emissary of the Villani Collective. 3 days ago, one of your people saved my life. Now I have come to save his." The room exploded with noise. Everyone was talking at once. Taewon just stared at the screen in shock. "The individual called Taewon is under Villani protection," Yura continued. "We demand his immediate release and safe passage to our vessel. Any who harm him will face the full response of the Villani Collective. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The screen switched back to the view of space. The 3 Covenant ships were turning away from the station now. The beautiful Villani ship had activated some kind of weapons. Beams of blue light shot across space. They didn't hit the Covenant ships, but they passed close enough to make a point. The Covenant ships jumped away, disappearing in flashes of red light. Dong-hyun's voice came over the speakers again. He sounded scared now. "Taewon, report to the command office immediately." Taewon walked through the corridors in a daze. Everyone stared at him. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Jiho and Hyunwoo followed him at a distance, whispering to each other. Nari appeared from the medical bay and squeezed his shoulder as he passed. She was smiling. The command office was full of people. Dong-hyun stood behind his desk, sweating. Several corporate officials were on video screens, all talking at once. They went silent when Taewon entered. "Do you know what you've done?" Dong-hyun said. His voice was shaking. "Do you have any idea what kind of situation you've created?" Before Taewon could answer, another alarm sounded. A calmer one this time. "Docking request received," the computer announced. "Villani diplomatic shuttle requesting permission to board." One of the corporate officials on the screen spoke up. He was a fat man in an expensive suit. "Granted. Granted immediately. We can't afford to anger them." Dong-hyun looked like he wanted to argue, but he pressed a button. "Docking permission granted." "Bay 3. Taewon, you will accompany us to greet them," the corporate official said. "And you will be polite. Whatever they want, we give them. Do you understand?" Taewon nodded. He still felt like he was dreaming. This couldn't be real. Yura had come back for him. She had brought a warship. She had scared away the Covenant. Why? He had just helped her. Anyone would have done the same thing. They walked to docking bay 3. Dong-hyun, Taewon, 6 security guards, and 3 corporate officials who had rushed to the station in a fast shuttle. Everyone looked nervous except Taewon. He just felt tired and sick. The radiation poisoning was getting worse. His vision was blurry at the edges. The airlock opened with a hiss. Taewon saw the Villani shuttle through the doorway. It was small and elegant, shaped like a teardrop with the same glowing blue patterns as the big ship. Yura stepped out first. She was tall, taller than Taewon remembered. Maybe he had been hunched over when he carried her. 4 other Villani followed her. They were all tall and beautiful, with different shades of blue skin. They wore armor that looked like it was made from crystal and metal mixed together. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. Yura saw Taewon and smiled. It was a warm smile, full of genuine happiness. She walked straight toward him, ignoring everyone else. Dong-hyun tried to step forward to greet her, but one of the Villani guards moved to block him. The message was clear. They weren't interested in anyone except Taewon. Yura stopped in front of him. She placed her right hand over her heart and bowed deeply. It was a formal gesture, full of respect. The other Villani did the same thing. Taiwan, she said softly. I told you I would remember. You came back, Taiwan said. His voice sounded weak even to his own ears. Why? Because you saved me when you had no reason to. Because you risked everything for a stranger. Because your species has something the galaxy desperately needs. She straightened up and her expression became serious. And because the Villani always honor their debts, she turned to address the others. When I crashed on your station, I was dying. The containment field was draining my life force. Your commander ordered everyone to leave me, but Taiwan disobeyed. He freed me, he hid me. He treated my wounds. He gave up his safety for mine. He broke protocol, Dong-hyun said weakly. He endangered the station. Yura's golden eyes turned cold when she looked at Dong-hyun. He showed compassion, something you clearly lack. The Villani Collective has reviewed this situation. We find your treatment of Taiwan unacceptable. He is a hero, not a criminal. One of the corporate officials stepped forward. He was trying to smile, but it looked fake. Of course, of course. There's been a misunderstanding. We were simply following procedure. But now that we understand the situation, we're happy to release Taiwan to your care. How generous, Yura said with sarcasm in her voice. Yesterday you were planning to hand him to the Covenant. Today you call him a hero. Your species has much to learn about honor. The official's fake smile disappeared. Now wait just a minute. No, Yura said firmly. You wait. You listen. The Villani Collective is offering your species a gift, not because you deserve it, but because of this one man. We will share our medical technology with humanity. We will sponsor your admission to the Galactic Collective. We will open trade routes and cultural exchanges. All of this because Taiwan showed us that your species has potential. The room went completely silent. Taiwan's head was spinning. Medical technology? Galactic Collective? What was she talking about? Yura turned back to him. But there is a condition. You must come with us. You must serve as the bridge between our peoples. You must become humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy. Me? Taiwan almost laughed. I'm just a minor. I don't know anything about diplomacy or politics. You know about compassion, Yura said. You know about doing what's right even when it costs you everything. That is more important than any training. She paused and her voice became gentler. Also, you are dying. The radiation has damaged your cells beyond what human medicine can repair, but our medical technology can save you. If you come with us now, Taiwan looked down at his shaking hands. She was right. He could feel death creeping through his body. He had maybe a week left, maybe less. If I say no, he asked, then I will respect your choice. We will still offer the medical technology to your people, but the full partnership, the cultural exchange, the admission to the Galactic Collective, those things require you. The galaxy needs to see that humanity can produce individuals like you. Taiwan looked at Dong-hyun. The commander was staring at him with a mixture of hatred and fear. He looked at the corporate officials. They were nodding eagerly, silently begging him to say yes. He looked at the crowd that had gathered outside the docking bay. Ji-ho and Hyunwoo were there. They looked ashamed. Nari was there too. She was crying and smiling at the same time. Can I say goodbye? Taiwan asked. To some people? Of course, Yura said. Taiwan walked to Nari. She hugged him tightly. You did it, she whispered. You saved us all. I just helped someone who needed help, Taiwan said. Exactly, Nari said. She pulled back and wiped her eyes. That's what makes you special. Taiwan turned back to Yura. Okay, I'll go with you. Yura's smile returned. Then let us leave this place. You have a new life waiting among the stars. Taiwan woke up slowly. His body felt strange. Not painful, just different. He opened his eyes and saw a ceiling that looked like the inside of a seashell, all smooth curves and soft light. He tried to sit up and was surprised at how easy it was. His muscles didn't hurt. His bones didn't ache. He felt strong. Easy, a voice said. Yura appeared beside the bed. You've been healing for 2 days. Your body needs time to adjust. Taiwan looked at his hands. They weren't shaking anymore. The skin looked healthy, normal. He touched his face and felt no pain. What did you do to me? Our medical technology repaired the radiation damage at the cellular level, Yura explained. She helped him sit up. We rebuilt your DNA, removed the damaged cells, and strengthened your immune system. You are healthier now than you were before you started working in the waste processing area. That's impossible, Taewon said. Human medicine can't do that. Human medicine can't, Vellani medicine can. And soon your people will have access to it too. She smiled. You saved my life. Now I have saved yours. We are even. Taewon looked around the room. Everything was beautiful, made from materials he couldn't identify. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. Through a window he could see stars moving past. They were traveling through space. Where are we going? He asked. Home. To Valanus Prime. You are the first human who will ever see our world. Over the next few days, Yira taught Taewon about her people. The Vellani had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They believed in honor and life debt above everything else. When someone saved a Vellani's life, that Vellani owed them a debt that could never be fully repaid. The entire species felt responsible for honoring these debts. That's why everyone came for you, Taewon said. Because of the life debt. Partly, Yira said, but also because of what you represent. The Vellani have watched humanity for decades. We were unsure about your species. You fight each other. You damage your own planet. You seem too violent, too selfish to join the galactic community. But then you did something that changed everything. I just helped you. You helped a dying alien when it would have been easier and safer to walk away. You sacrificed your career, your health, and nearly your life for a stranger. That showed us that humanity has the potential for greatness. Not all humans are like you, but enough might be. That is worth nurturing. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Through the window, Taewon saw a planet. It was beautiful beyond words. The continents were covered in forests that glowed with blue and purple light. The oceans were deep green. Cities sparkled on the surface, but they didn't look like Earth cities. They seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being built on top of it. Welcome to Valanus Prime, Yira said softly. The ship descended toward the planet. Taewon pressed his face against the window, trying to see everything at once. The cities were made of crystal towers that caught the sunlight and broke it into rainbows. Gardens floated in the air between buildings. Rivers of light flowed through the streets. They landed in a facility that looked like a flower made of white stone. When Taewon stepped out of the ship, the air smelled sweet and clean. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's. He felt like he could jump twice as high. Hundreds of Vellani had gathered to see him. They all bowed when he appeared. Taewon felt his face turn red with embarrassment. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. They honor you, Yira said. Word has spread about what you did. Every Vellani knows your name now. A vehicle that floated above the ground carried them through the city. Vellani citizens stopped to watch them pass. Some bowed. Some waved. Children pointed at him with excitement. Taewon had never felt so strange and out of place. They arrived at a massive building that looked like it was carved from a single piece of crystal. Inside, the halls were wide and tall, decorated with artwork that seemed to move and breathe. Yira led him to quarters that were bigger than his entire home back on Earth. Rest today, she said. Tomorrow you meet the High Council. That night, Taewon couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony of his quarters and looked out at the city. 2 moons hung in the sky, both larger than Earth's moon. The city never got dark. The buildings glowed softly all night, making everything look magical. He thought about his mother and sister back on Earth. They must have heard the news by now. The entire planet knew what had happened. He wondered what they thought. Were they proud, scared, angry that he had left? The next morning, Yira came to his quarters with formal clothes. They were similar to Vellani robes, but adjusted for his human body shape. She helped him dress and checked his appearance. The council can be intimidating, she said, but remember they already respect you. They just want to meet the human who saved their emissary. The council chamber was enormous. 12 Vellani sat in a semicircle on elevated platforms. They were older than Yira, their skin darker blue, their eyes holding centuries of wisdom. In the center sat a Vellani who looked like an older male version of Yira. He had the same golden eyes, the same proud bearing. That's my father, Yira whispered. Consul Thanuvel Arik. He leads the council. Taewon walked to the center of the chamber. He tried not to shake. These beings had the power to destroy entire star systems if they wanted. And he was just a human miner who got lucky. Thanu stood up. Taewon of Earth, you saved my daughter's life. For this, the Vellani Collective owes you a debt that can never be fully repaid. But we will try. Tell us, what do you want? Wealth, power? A world of your own? Name it. And if it is within our power, it is yours. Taewon swallowed hard. I don't want anything. I helped Yura because she needed help. That's all. The council members looked at each other. Some seemed surprised. Others nodded as if they expected this answer. You claim to want nothing, Thanu said, but your species wants much. They want to heal their sick. They want to travel the stars. They want to join the community of civilized worlds. These things we can give them because of you. Then give it to them, Taewon said. They deserve it, do they? Another council member asked. This was an elderly female with ice blue skin. Humans wage wars. They destroy their environment. They create weapons of terrible power. Why should we help such a species? Because they can be better, Taewon said. Yes, we fight. Yes, we make mistakes. But we also help each other. We create art and music. We love our families. We try to do the right thing, even when it's hard. I'm not special. There are millions of humans who would have done the same thing I did. Can you prove this? The elderly female asked. No, Taewon admitted. But give us a chance and we'll show you. Thanu smiled. Spoken with honesty. Very well. The council has decided we will share our medical technology with humanity. Diseases that have plagued your species for millennia will become curable. We will sponsor your admission to the Galactic Collective as junior members. You will gain access to trade routes, diplomatic channels, and cultural exchanges with hundreds of worlds. Taewon felt dizzy. This was too much, too big. Because of him, all of humanity would change. But there is a price, Thanu continued. You must serve as Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy. You must live here on Valanus Prime and represent your species' interests. You must learn our ways and teach us yours. You must be the bridge between two worlds. Will you accept this responsibility? Taewon thought about his old life. The mining station, the radiation, the loneliness. That life was gone. But he also thought about all the people on Earth who would benefit from this. Children who would grow up without disease. Explorers who would travel to distant stars. Diplomats who would make friends with alien species. All because he had freed one woman from a prison pod. I'm not qualified, Taewon said honestly. I'm not smart enough or educated enough to be an ambassador. You are kind enough, Yura said from beside him. You are brave enough. You are honest enough. Those qualities matter more than any education. Thanu nodded. Wisdom can be taught. Character cannot. You have already proven your character. The rest we will teach you. Taewon looked at the 12 council members. They were waiting for his answer. The fate of Earth hung on what he said next. Yes, Taewon said. I'll do it. I'll be Earth's ambassador. The council members stood and bowed to him. Taewon felt tears in his eyes. He had done it. He had changed everything, not with weapons or threats, but with simple compassion, and now the real work would begin. 6 months had passed since Taewon became Earth's ambassador. He stood in his office looking at the communication screen. His mother's face filled it, smiling with tears in her eyes. Behind her, his sister Bora waved excitedly. You look so different, Sunja said. Her voice trembled with emotion. So healthy. So confident. I feel different, Taewon admitted. He wore formal ambassador robes now, decorated with symbols representing both Earth and the Vallani Collective. How are things back home? Wonderful, Bora said, pushing her face into the screen. The Vallani medical technology arrived last month. Do you know what that means? Cancer is curable now. Heart disease is curable. Dad would still be alive if we'd had this 10 years ago. Taewon felt a pain in his chest. His father had died when he was 20 from a disease that Vallani medicine could have cured in an afternoon. I know. I think about that a lot. Don't, Sunja said firmly. You did what you could with what you had. Now you're helping everyone. Your father would be so proud. After the call ended, Taewon returned to his work. His desk was covered with documents in multiple languages. Trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, defense pacts. Every day brought new challenges and new opportunities. He was learning quickly, but sometimes he still felt overwhelmed. Yura entered without knocking. She did that often now. They had become close friends over the past months, comfortable with each other in a way that transcended species. We have a problem, she said. Her voice was tense. The Soul Horizon is missing. Taewon stood up quickly. The colony ship? The one heading to New Busan? Yes, it disappeared 3 days ago near the edge of Covenant space. 300 humans were aboard. Taewon felt cold. The Covenant. They were the ones who had captured Yira in the first place. The ones who wanted to execute him. Do we know what happened? Not yet. But my sources say the Covenant took the ship. They're holding the colonists as leverage. Leverage for what? For you, Yira said quietly. They want revenge. They want to prove that the Villani can't protect humans everywhere. They want to embarrass us and hurt your species at the same time. Taiwan sat down heavily. 300 innocent people were in danger because of him. What are our options? The Council wants to send a military fleet to Covenant space. Rescue the colonists by force. That would start a war, Taiwan said. He had learned enough about galactic politics to know that. The Covenant controlled dozens of star systems. A war with them would cost millions of lives. Yes, Yira agreed, which is why I told my father to wait. There might be another way. What way? You could negotiate directly with the Covenant. Under ancient parley laws, they have to listen. They might agree to a peaceful exchange. They want me dead, Yira. The moment I enter their space, they'll kill me. Possibly, but if you invoke parley rights, they have to give you a chance to speak first. That's the law. Even the Covenant follows it, because breaking it would turn every civilized species against them. Taiwan thought about the 300 people on that ship. Families, children, people who just wanted to start a new life on a distant world. They were in danger because of something he did. I'll go, he said. I'm coming with you, Yira said immediately. The life debt still exists. Where you go, I go. That's not necessary. It is to me. Besides, you need someone who understands how the Covenant thinks. I was their prisoner once. I know them. 2 days later, they boarded a small diplomatic shuttle. It was just the two of them. No weapons, no guards. Just a small ship carrying 2 individuals into enemy territory. The journey took 3 days. Taiwan used the time to prepare what he would say. How do you negotiate with criminals who wanted you dead? What could he possibly offer them? They entered Covenant space through a designated corridor. Almost immediately, 6 warships surrounded them. The ships were ugly, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like they were built for one purpose: killing. A communication came through. State your business. I am Taiwan, ambassador of Earth. I invoke ancient parley rights. I wish to speak with your leadership about the Sol Horizon and its passengers. There was a long silence. Then, follow us. The Covenant ships escorted them to a massive station floating in dead space. It looked like a city built from scrap metal and stolen ships, all welded together into something monstrous. They docked in a bay that smelled like oil and decay. Armed guards met them at the airlock. They were a mix of different species, all looking violent and cruel. They led Taiwan and Yira through corridors filled with illegal goods, weapons, drugs, stolen technology. This was the heart of the Covenant's empire. They entered a large chamber. At the far end sat a creature that made Taiwan's stomach turn. It had 6 arms, each covered in spikes. Its head was insect-like with multiple eyes that glowed red. This was Vex Murren, the leader of the Covenant. So, Vex said in a voice like grinding metal, the human who thinks he's a hero. You cost me a valuable prisoner. You cost me reputation. You cost me money. Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill you right now. Taiwan stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. Because killing me gains you nothing, but negotiating with me could gain you much, Vex laughed. It was a horrible sound. What could you possibly offer me? A trade route through human space. Exclusive rights to transport goods between Earth and the outer colonies. No questions asked about what you're carrying. The chamber went quiet. Vex leaned forward, his red eyes focusing on Taiwan. You would give criminals access to your worlds? I would give businessmen access to profitable routes, Taiwan said carefully. The Covenant is many things, but you're not stupid. You know the value of legitimate trade. Clean money spends better than dirty money. And right now, Earth is opening trade with dozens of new worlds. We need shipping partners. You could be those partners. In exchange for 300 worthless colonists? In exchange for proving that the Covenant can be reasonable? Right now, every species in the galaxy sees you as nothing but pirates and slavers. But if you release those colonists as a gesture of good faith, if you agree to legitimate trade, you become something else. You become respectable. Doors that were closed to you would open. Vex was silent for a long moment. His multiple eyes studied Taiwan carefully. You're smarter than you look, human. But how do I know you'll keep your word? Because I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for those people on that ship. And because I believe that anyone can change, even the Covenant, you don't have to be criminals forever. You could be traitors instead. Vex looked at Yira. And the Villani? They approve of this? It's not my decision, Yira said. But I trust Taiwan's judgment. Vex stood up. He was massive, towering over them. For a moment, Taiwan thought he had failed. Then Vex extended one of his spike-covered arms. You have a deal, human. The colonists will be released unharmed. In exchange, the Covenant gets exclusive shipping rights through human space for 10 years, and you will personally guarantee our safety when we operate in your territory. Taiwan shook the offered appendage, trying not to show his disgust at touching it. Agreed. They left the Covenant station with the Sol Horizon following behind them. The colonists were frightened but unharmed. Taiwan had succeeded. He had prevented a war and saved 300 lives, not with weapons but with words. When they returned to Valanus Prime, the High Council was waiting. Thanu looked at his daughter, then at Taiwan. You took a terrible risk. I know, Taiwan said. But it worked. It worked because you understood something important, Thanu said. You understood that even criminals want respect. You offered them a path to legitimacy. That took wisdom beyond your years. Over the following weeks, Earth celebrated Taiwan's success. The colonists of New Busan named their first city after him. More ambassadors were trained to help with the growing workload. Humanity was finding its place in the galactic community, one step at a time. Taiwan finally had time to visit Earth. He took a shuttle down to Seoul, where his mother and sister lived. They met him at the spaceport, hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe. They spent a week together, just talking and eating and enjoying each other's company. Taiwan realized how much he had missed home, even though home felt different now. He was different now. On his last day on Earth, Taiwan asked to visit Cheonsa 7. He took a small ship out to the mining station that had once been his prison. Nari met him at the docking bay. She looked younger than he remembered. Villani medicine was helping her too. You came back, she said, smiling. I wanted to see the place where it all started. They walked to Section D, to the spot where Yira's pod had crashed through the wall. Someone had repaired the damage, but you could still see the scorch marks if you looked closely. Do you regret it? Nari asked. Giving up your old life? Taiwan thought about it. He thought about the simple days of fixing pipes and moving barrels. He thought about the quiet nights alone with his thoughts. That life had been easier in some ways. No responsibilities, no pressure, no eyes watching his every move. But then he thought about the children on Earth who would grow up healthy. The explorers traveling to new worlds, the diplomats building friendships with alien species, all of it possible because he had freed one woman from a cage. No, Taiwan said finally. I don't regret it. I just did what anyone should have done.